Hi, my name is Brandon Skolton. I'm with Keyrenter Property Management, and I wanted to talk through how evictions work in Colorado. So, I've seen evictions for 3 different reasons. So the first 2 would be tenant doesn't pay rent or tenant violates a lease. The last one that I'll just allude to briefly, but in a slightly different process, but that would be when somebody's living in the property and there is no valid reason for them to be living there. So you've either ended a lease and tenant didn't move out as they should, or maybe there's a former homeowner of the property forecloses, now there's a new owner, a situation like that. So I'm not going to dive into that one today, but the first 2 we'll talk through. So initially, the first step is there needs to be a 3-day demand, either for rent or possession, 3-day demand for rent or possession, or a 3-day demand for compliance or possession. So the first would be if the rent's late. The second is if they violated the lease somehow. So in either case, they are given 3 days. So the day that it's posted doesn't count, but 3 full days to comply, either stop violating the lease or pay the amount that's owing. After that 3-day period, if that doesn't happen, then you can file that notice at court and get the process started. So once it's filed at court, about 1 to 2 weeks after that, you'll have a court date set. There's a couple ways that sometimes there's not final resolution at that court date. There may be a trial set if the tenant shows up and feels like they have a case to fight it. Also, if the tenant files an answer to the initial filing, then that kind of buys them a little extra time too. But either way, within either at that initial court date or a subsequent one shortly thereafter, the case will be heard and somebody will win. So if the landlord wins, then you're awarded a judgment. So that's what we call a writ. So the writ just basically says, yes, landlord, you are entitled to possession of the property due to whatever happened. So then the process for getting possession back of the property is this writ needs to go through the sheriff's department and a physical eviction is scheduled. So basically what that is somebody from the sheriff's department will call you, you'll schedule a time, then you show up, you'll initially need to get access to the property. So if you have keys, or you can have a locksmith show up if you need to gain access that way. You can change the locks on the property at that point as a way to kind of, revoke possession from the tenant. And then if the tenant has any personal property remaining inside, then that'll need to be removed, and the sheriff will give you a window of time to do that. So all that needs to come out, that'll sit on the curb. And then it will be the landlord's responsibility after some period of time to remove all that that's remaining on the curb. But just to give you a sense, from start to finish, this can be somewhere in the 3 to 6 weeks is pretty typical from the time that 3-day demand expires. And the cost, something like $700 to $1,500 is pretty typical there, and that would include like the labor for the crew to remove the personal property as well as the haul away. So yeah, something like $700 to $1,500 is what we've seen as fairly typical there. So hopefully that helps you understand the process, and feel free to reach out if we can do anything to help. Or and again, this isn't legal advice. Even internally we use an attorney for these cases, but hopefully you get a framework for it now. So thanks for watching. Take care.